Hi Rahim, obviously we're talking about foreign aid, and I'm going to jump right into this conversation by starting off with elaborating a bit more on my 2-to-1 ratio and really trying to point out definitively that it's not so much an elimination of the foreign aid budget as more of a changing in the way, a reformation if you will, in how we decide how much federal resources get spent on foreign aid. And first off, I want to point out that it's a more democratic model. It gives Canadians a more of a direct say in how much they truly care about foreign aid. I mean, it's nice to say that you're 70% Canadians. It's nice to say that they believe we should have some form of dedicated foreign aid budget. But this ratio method actually gives them a voice to say how much they believe in a dedicated foreign aid budget. And let's talk about the effects it would have on foreign affairs, because you bring up a good point, is that it would make the aid funds and the aid and ministry and the aid department work on a sort of ad hoc budget. The budget could potentially change, and drastically so, on a yearly basis. Now, what's the problem with this? Most federal departments run off a changing or moving budget, and what this would do to the Department of Foreign Affairs is that it would make them set a wish list, a priority list, where their focuses are. It would make them establish long-term goals and short-term goals to reach them, and ultimately it would encourage them to report more to the Canadian public about milestones or short-term goals that have been achieved. Now I'm going to use an example that you brought up in your video response. You mentioned a certain number of key things that our foreign aid dollars have done for the world, and you mentioned stuff like getting AIDS medication to Africa, to helping train peacekeepers for the Darfur region. You mentioned a number of things, but they all were very vague. None of them were very specific, and that's the problem right now, is that there isn't really too many specifics out there that the Canadian public is generally aware of. We know dollars disappear in the foreign aid budget, but we don't know exactly what they're going towards, exactly the good that they're exactly accomplishing. Now, tying the foreign affairs to a potentially moving budget is going to increase the amount that this department is open with Canadians. It's going to increase the amount of publication they're going to do. It's going to increase the amount of kind of advertising in a way that they say, yes, we did take X amount of your federal dollars, but here's what we accomplished. We achieved this, this, and that. And it fits into our short-term goals this way, and which fits into our long-term goals this way. And it really gives Canadians a way of seeing where their foreign aid dollars are going, that it's important, that it's actually accomplishing something which is crucial. And by seeing that it's actually accomplishing something, it might actually encourage Canadians to invest more. And so in doing this more open budget, this more open relations with foreign aid and the Canadian public, we could actually increase foreign aid spending, because Canadians can say, hey, we actually are accomplishing something, and it is important that we go out and we continue to invest in foreign aid because we're making progress here. And I actually happen to agree with that. I'm all 100% supporting if Canadians choose to support foreign aid, but I'm only supporting that if they acknowledge that while they're increasing foreign aid spending, they're neglecting other national aid concerns. But if they're still wanting to make that trade-off, then I fully support them. Now I'm going to go back to talking about this 70% voted in some form of a dedicated foreign aid budget. And I want to look at the other 30% that said they don't believe in a dedicated foreign aid budget. And I'd actually be quite interested to see where the breakdown of relative wealth was, and who said yes for a foreign aid budget and who said no. Because I kind of strongly believe that definitely those who live in poverty in Canada would definitely be less willing to contribute to foreign aid than those individuals who live in relative security. I mean, and I'm going to use an example here of, let's look at a homeless person now, whether they live in my urban center or in your urban center. That person lives on the street, obviously lives in Canadian poverty, but that person still pays taxes. They still pay PST and GST when they go buy a loaf of bread that they had to spend all week panhandling to get the resources for. They are still contributing to the system, but really they're not getting too much back out of it. The system is really ignoring them. And if we were to ask that person, would you rather see money spent on social programs in a form of national aid or money spent on a foreign aid program, I'd be willing to make a bet, and it's actually a good idea. I should probably head downtown Vancouver and ask a few homeless people this. But I'd be willing to bet that they'd be more willing to see money kept in Canada. So obviously we have a problem here. We've got 70% of the population that says, yep, great, we need a dedicated foreign aid budget, even though that same percent isn't actually saying how much they feel we should spend on foreign aid. And we've also got 30% of the population that say, no, those resources are better kept at home. Now, this current system where the government just arbitrarily sets an amount or attempts to follow the 0.7% GDP highlighted by the UN fails in taking into consideration this wide range of voices. It doesn't take into account what individual Canadians think. Now, by switching to this more representative model, this 2-to-1 ratio, it's actually going to allow the government to go forward on the international stage, go forward to its allies, go forward to its trading partners in the UN and say, hi, we are the representatives of the Canadian people, and as such, we are donating in foreign aid the amount that the Canadian people feel that we should be. And really, I don't see how any other nation can really aggressively come at Canada for that reason. I mean, we are simply doing what the Canadian public says we should. Now, obviously, that 70%, 30%, that can be changed over time. This new system will encourage the Foreign Affairs Department to become more open. It's going to encourage them to report more, to have more public goals, and to highlight the milestones when they make them. Now, if for example, that there is, we're accomplishing many milestones, we're accomplishing our short-term goals, if these Foreign Affairs Department can show the country that, it's going to show them that progress is being made, that we're doing good, and it's going to encourage further increases in resources spent on foreign aid. Whereas if the Foreign Affairs Department isn't really making sure all of its dollars are going to a usable place, doesn't really have any milestones that can show the Canadian public, it's going to result in a decrease of foreign aid. So really, it's making sure that our dollars go to places where they can do good. It's going to make sure that our dollars are going to be held accountable, and it's going to make sure that we're actually achieving something with the resources that we put into foreign aid. So really, I think it's a far superior model and a far superior method to what we're doing now. Now I'm going to finish off this really long conversation while talking about Afghanistan. And Afghanistan is on a completely different stage simply because it represents to me the end of the current type of way we deliver foreign aid. And that's the end of the blanket approach system, the little bit here, a little bit there that the Canadian Foreign Affairs Department seems to love to do. I think Afghanistan is proving that if we want to do a legitimate good with our amount of GDP spent on foreign aid, because I mean, let's be honest, even if we increase that amount to 100%, we can't possibly help everyone in the world with the current blanket approach. So the reason I think that Afghanistan is an important model is that it shows that we can't help everyone with the blanket, but if we apply the divide and conquer rule, if we pick maybe 2 or 3 nations that represent a low risk investment, that being said, meaning that the resources that go to them are not likely to end up in the hands of warlords, are not likely to end up in buying weapons for children soldiers, are not likely to end up in food to a select extremist group. I believe that by focusing our amount of resources into a few distinct countries and helping them get on their feet first, and then putting our focus on another nation, we can actually do legitimate good in a shorter amount of time and start the progress of bringing the world out of poverty quicker. Afghanistan, I think, shows this because it represents a single focused push of many first world developed nations into helping a single country. There's been leaps and bounds in progress made, especially in the north of Afghanistan, where fighting is not as intense. And I think we've shown that focused aid that where countries really look and pick one country and say we're going to help them now, can be successful when 20, 30, 40 years of kind of the blanket approach to foreign aid has proven that it is not successful. So Afghanistan is a completely different issue. We need to keep our military presence there. We need to keep putting money into that, mainly because it's going to, I think, revolutionize the way that not only Canada but the world views how they should deliver foreign aid. So thanks for him. I hope this has answered your questions. I hope this has answered a few of your concerns. Obviously, it's obvious that we're never going to quite agree on everything. I think that's important. It's important that we can lock horns every now and then. But I again hope this kind of made my views, made my points a bit clear, and just like to again say thank you for taking the time to comment. Thank you for your patience, and I look forward to hearing your response, as I'm sure there's definitely going to be one. So take care, and look forward to hearing you again in the future. Good luck.